Commander Jiwon stood on the observation deck of Luna Base, watching Earth's blue marble spin slowly below. For 3 months, humanity had received the same cryptic message broadcast across every frequency. The Devourers come. All civilized. Species must unite or perish, gather at the Nexus. Most governments dismissed it as an elaborate hoax, but Jiwon knew better. The mathematical precision of the signal, its simultaneous arrival across light years of space, and the way it bypassed every encryption system made it undeniably alien. Dr. Minho, Earth's leading xenolinguist, had finally cracked the message's deeper layers. Hidden within the broadcast were star charts, tactical data, and a chilling revelation. An ancient mechanical race called the Devourers was systematically consuming entire star systems, turning living worlds into fuel for their endless expansion. The message wasn't a request. It was a desperate plea from the Galactic Coalition, a union of thousands of species who had been fighting this losing war for decades. What puzzled Jiwon most was humanity's notable absence from the Coalition's records. According to their database, Earth should have been contacted centuries ago when humans first achieved radio technology. Yet somehow, humanity had been overlooked, forgotten, or deliberately ignored. Now, as the Coalition's defenses crumbled and the Devourers advanced toward the Milky Way's core, they were calling on every species, no matter how primitive or insignificant. The irony wasn't lost on Jiwon. Humanity, the species deemed too violent and unpredictable for galactic society, was now being asked to join a war that had already claimed billions of lives across 1,000 worlds. While other nations debated and politicians argued, Jiwon made a decision that would change everything. She activated Earth's most powerful deep space transmitter and sent a simple response. Humanity accepts we're coming. Captain Daho's ship, the Soul's Pride, dropped out of hyperspace at the coordinates specified in the Coalition message. What greeted them defied every expectation. The Nexus wasn't a planet or space station. It was a massive construct the eye, size of Earth's moon. Its crystalline surfaces pulsing with energy signatures from hundreds of different technologies. Thousands of alien vessels orbited the structure, representing species that spanned the evolutionary spectrum from energy beings to silicon-based collective minds. As the human delegation approached, their communications array lit up with incoming transmissions. The aliens' reactions ranged from confusion to outright hostility. Species after species questioned humanity's presence. They had no representatives in the Coalition database, no established territories in known space, and their technology appeared to be centuries behind the galactic standard. Some suggested the humans were devourer infiltrators using an unknown disguise. Ambassador Subin, leading the diplomatic team, found herself in the most challenging negotiation of her career. The Coalition's leadership, a council representing the most advanced civilizations, treated humanity as an amusing curiosity at best. The crystalline architects spoke in mathematical harmonics that hurt human ears. The gaseous collective communicated through controlled atmospheric disturbances. The cybernetic nexus-born existed partially in virtual reality, making direct communication nearly impossible. Despite the technological gap, Subin noticed something the aliens seemed to miss. Every species in the Coalition had evolved along similar paths. They had achieved interstellar travel through cooperation, advanced through peaceful expansion, and developed weapons only as a last resort against the Devourers. Humanity's history of constant warfare, their tendency toward creative destruction and adaptive tactics, wasn't seen as an asset. It was seen as a liability. The aliens feared that humans might be too unpredictable to trust in a coordinated defense. Everything changed when the Devourers attacked a Coalition mining world during the summit. The aliens watched in horror through live feeds as their defensive formations, honed through decades of experience, crumbled within hours. Subin saw something else in those battle recordings: patterns, weaknesses, and opportunities that the Coalition's logical, predictable strategies had never exploited. General Hyunwoo stood before the Coalition War Council, his presentation causing audible gasps and translated expressions of shock throughout the chamber. While the aliens had spent decades perfecting defensive strategies, humanity proposed something that violated every principle of civilized warfare, a direct assault on the Devourer home fleet. The plan was considered suicidal by every military expert in the galaxy. The Devourers had never faced a sustained offensive. Their strategy relied on overwhelming isolated systems, consuming resources faster than defenders could respond, and moving on before effective resistance could form. They were perfect predators, but they had never encountered prey that fought back with humanity's particular brand of calculated recklessness. Dr. Yunji's research team had spent months analyzing Devourer technology from wreckage recovered by coalition forces. What they discovered changed everything. The mechanical race's greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. Their perfect coordination, their instantaneous communication across vast distances, and their collective consciousness made them incredibly efficient but also predictable. They couldn't comprehend strategies based on chaos, misdirection, and acceptable losses. The human plan was elegantly insane. Instead of defending fixed positions, they would use small, fast strike teams to attack Devourer supply lines, manufacturing centers, and command nodes simultaneously across multiple star systems. Each team would operate independently, adapting tactics in real time without central coordination. The strategy went against every military doctrine the coalition had developed, but it was exactly the kind of unpredictable approach that might catch the Devourers off guard. What truly stunned the aliens was humanity's willingness to sacrifice entire fleets to achieve strategic objectives. The concept of acceptable casualties was foreign to species that had evolved past large-scale conflict. When General Hyunwoo calmly explained that humanity expected to lose 70% of their forces in the opening assault, the coalition representatives couldn't comprehend how any species could be so cavalier about death. The debate raged for days until Admiral Taeyang, humanity's most experienced military strategist, made a simple observation that silenced the chamber. "We've been fighting wars for our entire existence. You've been running from this one for decades. Which approach has been more successful?" Commander Jinwoo's strike force materialized in the heart of Devourer space. Their ship's stealth systems pushed beyond safe limits. The human fleet was tiny compared to the mechanical armadas they faced, but size had never been humanity's advantage. Speed, adaptability, and a complete disregard for their own safety were humanity's weapons, and they were about to use them all. The first phase of the assault was pure chaos. Human ships attacked from impossible angles, used suicidal ramming, tactics when conventional weapons failed, and coordinated their strikes through methods the Devourers couldn't predict or counter. Lieutenant Minsu's fighter squadron flew their ships directly into Devourer manufacturing bays, detonating their reactors to destroy facilities that would have taken months of conventional bombardment to damage. What the coalition witnessed through long-range sensors defied their understanding of warfare. The Devourers, who had adapted to counter every strategy thrown at them over decades of conflict, suddenly found themselves facing tactics they couldn't process. Human commanders made decisions that seemed random, but were actually based on intuitive leaps and emotional responses that no artificial intelligence could predict. Engineer Neon's technical teams performed miracles of improvisation, turning damaged human ships into guided missiles, repurposing Devourer technology in ways its creators never intended, and creating weapons from whatever materials they could find. When conventional tactics failed, humans simply invented new ones on the spot, adapting faster than their enemies could respond. The turning point came when Captain Sangho's ship, its engines failing and weapons depleted, crashed directly into the Devourer command nexus. The collision shouldn't have been significant enough to matter, but Sangho had calculated something the aliens missed. The Devourer's perfect communication network was also perfectly vulnerable to the right kind of disruption. The ship's reactor explosion created a cascade failure that severed communication links across the entire sector. For the first time in their existence, individual Devourer units found themselves acting without central coordination. They hesitated, made errors, and began to retreat. The sight of the unstoppable mechanical race pulling back from battle sent shockwaves through both human and coalition forces. The impossible had happened. Humanity had found a way to make the Devourers afraid. News of the human victory spread through coalition space faster than light itself. Admiral Young-ho found herself commanding not just human forces, but volunteers from dozens of species who wanted to learn humanity's unconventional tactics. The rigid military doctrines that had failed against the Devourers for decades were being replaced by human concepts of flexible command structure, acceptable risk, and adaptive strategy. The war that had seemed hopeless months before suddenly had momentum. Human advisors worked with alien commanders to develop new approaches that combined coalition technology with human tactical philosophy. The crystalline architects learned to use their mathematical precision in unpredictable ways. The gaseous collective discovered they could create devastating atmospheric attacks by abandoning their careful coordination. Even the logical cybernetic nexus-born began incorporating randomness algorithms into their battle computers. But the Devourers were learning too. Their collective intelligence began adapting to human unpredictability, developing counter-strategies, and creating new types of units designed specifically to combat chaotic tactics. The mechanical race's greatest advantage wasn't just their coordination, it was their ability to evolve and improve with each encounter. Captain Su Young's reconnaissance missions revealed disturbing intelligence. The Devourers were constructing something massive in the galactic core, drawing resources from hundreds of consumed worlds. Whatever they were building, it was unlike anything in their previous patterns of behavior. Dr. Ji-hyun's analysis suggested it might be a weapon capable of sterilizing entire galactic arms simultaneously, making conventional defense impossible. The revelation forced humanity and the coalition to confront an uncomfortable truth. Winning individual battles wouldn't be enough. The Devourers had been playing a longer game all along, and their ultimate goal was the complete conversion of the galaxy into resources for expansion beyond the Milky Way. The war everyone thought was about survival was actually about preventing universal conquest on an unimaginable scale. General Inwoo proposed humanity's most audacious strategy yet. Instead of continuing to fight defensive actions, they would launch a direct assault on the galactic core itself. The plan required committing every available ship, abandoning all defensive positions, and accepting that failure would mean the extinction of every species in the galaxy. It was the kind of all-or-nothing gamble that only humanity would consider, and exactly the kind of strategy that might be crazy enough to work. Fleet Admiral Kyung-soo stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship as the largest armada in galactic history prepared for the final assault. Ships from 1,000 worlds flew in formation, their crews trained in tactics that no military academy had ever taught. The coalition had learned humanity's most important lesson. Sometimes the only way to win an impossible war is to attempt the impossible. The journey to the galactic core took months, with Devourer forces harassing the fleet every step of the way. But something had changed in how the mechanical race fought. Their attack seemed almost desperate, as if they were trying to delay the coalition advance rather than destroy it. Intelligence Officer Hiram's analysis revealed the truth. The Devourer's superweapon was nearly complete, but it required absolute focus from their collective consciousness to function. Every moment spent fighting the coalition was time taken, away from their ultimate project. The final battle took place in space, so distorted by gravitational forces that conventional physics barely applied. The Devourer superweapon, a construct the size of a solar system, was revealed to be something even more terrifying than anyone had imagined. A device capable of opening permanent rifts to other galaxies, allowing the mechanical race to spread their consumption across the entire universe. Commander Jisoo led the final assault with a fleet composed entirely of volunteers who knew they weren't coming home. Their mission was simple: get close enough to the weapon's core to detonate every nuclear device humanity had brought to the galactic center. The explosion wouldn't just destroy the superweapon, it would create a gravitational cascade that would consume the entire core region, taking the Devourer collective consciousness with it. As human ships dove through impossible defensive fire, alien crews following tactics they'd learned from humanity's example, the galaxy held its breath. The battle was broadcast live across millions of worlds, watched by species who had never believed that the unstoppable Devourers could be defeated. The explosion, when it came, was visible from the galaxy's outer rim. The gravitational wave that followed changed the orbital mechanics of every star system in the Milky Way. When the energy finally dissipated, the Devourer fleet was gone, their collective consciousness scattered beyond recovery, and their threat eliminated forever. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched for survivors and the Coalition began the long process of rebuilding, one fact became clear to every species in the galaxy. Humanity hadn't just answered the call to battle, they had redefined what it meant to fight for survival. The cosmos had indeed been stunned, not just by humanity's arrival, but by their willingness to sacrifice everything for the chance to save everyone. The war was over, but its lessons would echo through galactic civilization for millennia. Sometimes, the most powerful weapon isn't technology or coordination, but the simple human ability to do whatever it takes, no matter the cost.